Good evening and welcome to all. It's now the end of the year 2021. कब शुरू हुआ और देखते देखते देखिए कोविड आया एंड लॉकडाउन्स आए एंड पैंडेमिक ने बहुत असर किया एंड देन अगेन वी स्टार्टेड टुवर्ड्स द न्यू नॉर्मलिटी एंड एंड ऑफ द ईयर पे आ गए हैं. लेकिन ये एंड ऑफ द ईयर भी हमारे लिए तो ऐसा हो गया है कि बस वी आर फुल्ली ऑक्यूपाइड विद द वेरियस ऑडिट्स एंड द इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न्स and still we are working with all the returns and the websites and the portal, everything sab chal raha hai saath mein. And again we are over here for a session. So at the outset, first, during this hectic schedule, thank you to our today's speaker CA Mohit Bhai Dunn, who has given his consent to act and to share his views on today's topic, audit quality maturity model. एक ऐसा मॉडल, एक ऐसी टॉपिक पे बात हम करने जाने वाले हैं आज, जिसके अंदर ऑडिट बोला गया है और हमें ऑडिट ही अगले 15 दिन में करना है. ये बात अलग है दैट वी आर गोइंग टू डू द टैक्स ऑडिट्स, बट स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिट्स आल्सो इन प्रोसेस जो हम सब कर रहे हैं. एंड वी नीड टू फॉलो मेनी पॉइंट्स, चेकलिस्ट दैट दिस मॉडल टेक्स केयर ऑफ. It shows us that what things one should take care for compliance of his audits, how he should do some compliance or the checklist, then the infrastructure part, his time involvement into a particular audit, many things जो ये ऑडिट मॉडल हमें बताता है कैसे हमने हमारी क्वालिटी को मेंटेन करना. और ये सेशन जब लेना है ना, तो मैं भूलना नहीं चाहूंगा. यहाँ पे सबसे पहले तो मैं थैंक करना चाहूंगा हमारे तीनों ब्रांचेस एंड द मैनेजिंग कमिटी मेंबर्स ऑफ ऑल द 3 ब्रांचेस, अकोला ब्रांच, Sandeep Bhai Desada from Ahmednagar branch and his entire team, and Pankaj Bhai Soni, chairman for Aurangabad branch and his entire team, for giving their consent for keeping this session on this audit quality maturity model. My sincere thanks to CA Durgesh Kabra sir, who is the convener for the Center of Audit Quality. And he had given this consent at the very first stroke that no, we should have a session on AQMM, because it's an important topic which is currently applicable, recommendatory to those CA firms who are having listed companies or banks. That is what we should say, the statutory audit of the head offices or the insurance company audits. ऐसे कुछ लोगों को ये recommendatory in nature है अभी. तो thank you Durgesh sir को भी and his entire committee who had given this consent for this session also. So now, without investing much more time, currently in the absentia of Durgesh Kabra sir, I'll ask first CA Sandeep Bhai Desarda to introduce our today's speaker, Mohit Bhai Dunn.
Thank you, Kishore Bhai. At the outset, very first, I welcome today's keynote speaker, CA Mohit Dunn. As rightly said by Kishore, that in spite of very busy and very hectic schedule, Mohit Bhai has given agreed for the small branches. He's ready to give his precious time. Thank you so much, sir. And before I introduce today's speaker, I wish you in advance a very happy New Year to all the members. Today's keynote speaker, CA Mohit Dunn, sir, with an experience of offering a bucket of fully integrated strategic advisory and auditing services, Mohit Dunn comes with an experience of a decade of practice. A chartered accountant by profession, his expertise lies in audit and assurance, risk and advisory. He is speaker with ICAI and has delivered various lectures on internal audit, technology, enabler in audit, audit and assurance standards, AQMM, internal audits and risk organized by ICAI, IASB and various branches of ICAI. He is a contributor to ebook published by Committee for Members in Practice of ICAI on Office Management Manual for Members in Practice. With this, now I request CA Mohit sir, please take the charge of the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sandeep ji, for a kind introduction. Thank you, Kishore Bhai, for inviting me. I would like to thank all the 3 branches, Akola, Ahmednagar, Aurangabad, for arranging this session and inviting me to speak about this interesting topic. Just give me, I'll start sharing the screen. So please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, yes, it's visible.
I would also like to thank my fellow members. In spite of such a busy schedule, they could come up to hear us, and I think it's an interesting session. And I'll walk through the complete process. What is AQMM? Why it was required? How it will help us to build the capability in the organization, and what exactly the checklist talks about. So before going much into detail, I'll just let you what AQMM is. Okay, so at the name says, it's audit quality maturity model. So everyone will agree that till today, the onus of having an internal control was
request members to please mute.
Yeah, sorry. So basically, the onus till date on having the internal controls was on the client side. So when we used to do audit or internal audit, we used to see कि हम देखते थे कि auditee के पास whether he has the internal control, he has the policies and procedures, whether they have a processes or not. So now that onus is being shared. I would say that now as an auditing firm, also the stakeholders, there's a requirement from the stakeholders, from the ICI, to ensure that we also have our house in order. We also have the internal controls. We have the policies in house, which ensures that audit quality is delivered. Right. So now, if we talk about the stakeholders of our report, like the responsibility of chartered accounting firm is increasing day by day, that we all are aware and facing also. The requirement has increased. The stakeholders have increased. It's not restricted only to the owners or stakeholders. Also, the government is using our financial statements. It's used by banks, analysts. So it's used by so many for the subsidy purpose. So government use in various purposes. So basically, it's very important to ensure that we are releasing a right quality of financial statement. So so with this background, right, with this increase in the responsibility, the holders and the requirements, so there is a need where there is a standardization of the process, there is a standardization of the quality, and the firms can measure that at what maturity level they are today. So AQMM is, I would say, a great initiative by ICI as on date. And it's a capacity building measure where the firms like us, let it be proprietor or partnership firms, any member who is having COP and is signing, it's a checklist based model where it helps the firms to build their, to basically build their capacity. So to see whether at what level we are, it's a self-evaluation audit matrix. It has a checklist where it has a questions and it has a points. At each there, it's divided into 3 components. And so each firm has to basically evaluate themselves. As Keyur Bhai mentioned, it's a voluntary as of now for a group of firms. And then it will become mandatory. So it's a self-evaluation audit. You have to mark your own self, identify the areas of competencies. So now I think with this AQMM, though it is recommendatory, it will become mandatory to X layer of firms, and then it will subsequently come down to everyone, right? So basically, it's the right time to understand what are our competencies, where we want to head, whether we want to head towards audit, we want to head towards GST, because now it will be a very specialized approach. If you are doing an audit, are you following this quality standards, right? So if not, then we will not be able to do the audits of the organization which is mentioned here. Then it also gives us a roadmap for upgrading ourselves, because right now everyone's talk about quality, and quality is very subjective. To make it objective, the CAQ has done a great job where this checklist has been laid out, where we can see that what exactly we are talking about quality. So what are the parameters of the quality? What should be there as an ecosystem to ensure that we are delivering a quality? So that checklist and model has been prepared. So I initially, maybe the firms can have a lower ranking and they know where to improve, so they upgrade themselves in the roadmap. So it also gives you a roadmap for upgrading the higher quality of maturity. So there's various publication which is issued by Financial Reporting Review Board on the quality and how it's there are also study papers and comprehensive studies on Ind AS, financial reporting, CARO, various, so that it helps us to see where and how to implement to ensure that quality is there. Before we go ahead, we'll talk about why AQMM, right? So there is an Audit Quality Review Board, which is QRB, Quality Review Board, which reviews some percentage or some numbers of financial statements, which review voluntarily, and they see that what is the audit, what are the remarks, whether the standards has been followed, and so they review the financials of the companies which has been audited by CA firms. Now, there is a summary of audit engagement which has been covered from 2012 to 2020. If you see, this is a year-wise review that is done by the Quality Review Board. And these are the findings of the engagement review, right? So they see that 6% of the total assignments which they reviewed, they feel that there's a significant improvement which is required. And almost 60%, the major chunk says that improvements are required. So that is not up to the mark and improvements are required. Only 34% says it's generally acceptable. So these are the numbers, as we love numbers, and it helps us to understand better. So 60% of our assignments need requirements. If we go further, if we see 1920, again you see 82% of the assignments in 1920 requires improvement. So I would say that, what is audit quality is a hallmark, right? How we purchase gold, we see the hallmark. So audit quality is a hallmark for audit firm. So if you're having a right kind of quality, definitely your maturity level will be high. So these are the, then I'm not going into each and every details, but this is a percentage of reviewed audit firms having observation standards of auditing. So based on their Audit Quality Review Board, they've observed that at least 26% of the assignments are not following SQC1. 10% are not following SA 210. So these are the standards which has not been followed. If you see SA 500, and these are the simple standards, right? And that's what we say, that we as a mid-size or small size firms do over auditing. We go up to, maximum extent possible to review what is wrong, how the transaction is done. But where we lag is the documentation. And it's rightly said that if it is not documented, it's assumed that it's not done. And that's all, we face. If there is any inquiry, if there is any investigation, we see that, okay, this is we have done, but what does the standard says, and have we documented in a right way? So that is where the firms are lacking, and that's why there is a need of AQMM. If we further go about, entity percentage, so this is just a number. I'll just skip these slides. Yeah. So how does one measure the audit quality? So one is the compliance with the law. So are we complying with the law? Are we complying with the regulatory standards which are being issued from ICAI regulators, right? So first is the compliance with the law. Second comes with the compliance with the firm's QC, quality control. So comply with the firm's quality control policies and procedure. First of all, do we have quality control policies and procedure? And second is, if yes, are we complying the same? Third is ethical team behavior, right? So do we have a transparent ecosystem where anyone can raise the questions of the assignments, or internally any issues are there? Do we have an ethical team? Are the ethical standards and everything are being followed? And for this, appropriate reporting. right? So issuing audit reports that are appropriate in the circumstances. So are we issuing a right quality of financial audit statement, financial statement? So basically, these are, just to make, because as I mentioned that audit quality is very subjective. To make it objective, we need to see that what parameters need to be met to ensure or to say that we are following the audit quality. So these are few parameters. Now, before going to AQMM, I would like to discuss about the standards which are being issued by ICAI. So, though AQMM is recommendatory as of now, but we all are aware that these standards are mandatory to every chartered accountant doing the auditing, whether it is proprietorship, individual, or it's a CA firm. These all standard, as we talk as in today, is compulsory to all of us, right? But it has been observed that these standards are not being followed in terms of documentation, in terms of following the standards or processes, which has been mentioned in the standard of auditing, which has been issued by ICAI. So there are standards on auditing. There are standards on review engagements. So review engagements are where the firms have limited review for a listed entities. Standard on, that is standards on internal auditing. Standard or related services, that can be value-add services or other services, apart from the certifications. And important is standard on quality control. So there is a standard which talks about overall quality that needs to be implemented in the organization or in the CA firm to ensure that whatever assignments you do have a standardization, have policies, have procedures listed down, you have SOPs, and ultimately you have a quality engagement results. So basically these all, I will just re-emphasize that these all standards are applicable as on today to everyone. So we need to go back and see whether we are following this. And one more thing, these standards are basically like I would say, mask in this COVID situation, where at least you have a possibility that if you're wearing mask, that you are less prone to the infection. Same way, if something happens tomorrow, if there is an investigation, there is a review of your engagement, and if you're following these standards, it works as a protection for you, right? So this is what I would like to emphasize, that though AQMM is recommendatory as of now and applicable to certain amount of size of the firms, that we'll discuss a little later, but these are applicable to all of us who are in practice. So basically, this is a broad structure. SQC talks about the broader, and it has a 6 element which talk about the broader picture of policies, process and policies of the firms. And you do, whether you do auditing, you do review engagements, you do assurance or related services, SQC talks about the standard way that a firm should adopt. Now, why these standards? This I'm talking about the auditing standards and other standards which has been issued by ICAI. As we discussed, it is mandatory by ICAI to all of us. Companies Act requires us to follow these standards, and also if it is not complied, right? So the CA shall be held guilty for a professional misconduct. And why I'm talking about these standards, we're talking about SQC, we are talking about auditing standards, is basically that what is the base of AQMM? Right. So the base, when we have to measure what is the audit quality maturity in our firm, we have to go back to the basics and see whether we are following the basic things that is applicable to us. So it can be standards, it can be ethics, it can be regulations, right? So have we implemented those standards? Are we following all those requirements? If we are following, that means we have a base which is ready. And once you have that base which is ready, then you can go and check, okay, now let me check what is my maturity model. But if you have not implemented these standards or basic procedures which is applicable to the firm, then it's very it will be difficult to go and map your AQMM and do the ranking. Now I'll talk about applicability of AQMM. So basically AQMM is will apply to the firms auditing the entity. So basically any firm which are auditing any of these entities, AQMM is applicable to them. So basically first is a listed entity. So if any firm is auditing any listed entity, though it is not clear in the document, but based on my discussion with the CAQ team, they informed that even if you are doing assurance services, if you are doing not only statutory audit, but even if you are doing assurance services, that is internal audit, and you have a listed entity on in your portfolio or as your client, it is applicable to you. So any firm doing auditing of the following entities: first is listed entity, second is banks, and then the cooperative banks, except multi-state cooperative banks. So basically, but it's clarified that branches are not included. So if you're doing the main bank as a group audit of the banks, then AQMM is recommended to you. And third, if you're auditing any insurance companies. So it is recommendatory for a year, and after a year, council will review from which it will become mandatory. I just request the participants, if they're not speaking, so that they can put it on.
म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन है क्या? हाँ शायद वही थे। कितनी अमाउंट है? 7,000।
I would request participants to please put your.
Mohit sir, please.
Okay, so this is where the AQMM is applicable. So I would say that today, if we see that okay, it is not applicable to me, and let's leave it, and then it's not relevant to me, I think that will not be a justified decision of a firm or a partner or a individual, because today, if, as I mentioned, that it is, though it is not mandatory, tomorrow it will become mandatory to one set of people, and going forward it can become compulsory for other set of people. So it will not be right way to see that it is not mandatory to me today, right? So it will subsequently it will come, and it's not that if it becomes mandatory to any firm and it will be easy for them to implement in a week's time or this time, because if you see the number of how briefly it has been covered, all the elements or parts of the operations as well as strategy, right? So you will see, and that it is not easy to implement in, let's say, a very short time. So today, though it is not compulsory to your firm, we can start structuring and seeing as a roadmap. So where we start and going forward, right? So when it becomes mandatory, so that it's not that again we are starting from scratch. So we should look at it. What are the requirements? What we have? How we can implement? I would suggest each and every audit firms to at least go through it and map yourself that at what stage we are, how mature we are. Because the end of the day, if we don't have a quality, right? So we won't be able to serve the client. And also once this become mandatory, the ranking of these firms will be listed in the website of ICAI. Firm will have access, how we have our stakeholders have access to UDIN. Same way, the client will have access to your ranking and rating as per the standard which is given here. So what is the maturity level or marks that a firm has, right? And obviously, if you have a very low mark when it becomes mandatory to any firm, and firms have a very low ranking, nobody would like to work with a firm who doesn't have an appropriate ranking of theirs to rate the quality. So I would recommend and request my fellow colleagues to please look at it, though it is not mandatory or compulsory or recommendatory for your firm, but at least look at it and see that this is a future, right? This is how you will have to build your firm. So let's start working towards that direction. So this practice management covers, is divided into 3 sections, which first part is practice management operations, which covers a detail about the operations, how the operations are being concluded. This we will see in detail in the next few coming slides. And total of this section 1 is 280 marks. The second is human resource management. I would say the heart of a service industry, any organization serving in the service industry, and so as we. The human resource management, which is, I would say, the major part of bringing in the quality. Because if you have right kind of people, right number of people at right place, and they're upskilled well, provided they're given a right kind of infrastructure required, I think that the quality is bound to come in any kind of assignment. So we'll talk about the human resource management, which covers almost 240 marks and is divided into 5 major categories. And then is the practice management strategic and functional. It talks about the 4 practice credentials. It talks about the infrastructure that one has. It talks about the security, So basically the 3 sections covered almost 600 marks. So these are the 3 sections, section 1, 2, 3, 280, 240, and 80 marks. So total 600 marks. This is how the grading will be. So if your firm, so after doing this analysis and detailed checklist, you have evaluated yourself that, okay, I am up to 25% in each section. That is section 1, 2, and 3. You are 25% here, and how we have our CA rank markings when we did our CA, same way, 25% in each section. Then you are level 1 firm, that is, you are at very nascent stage and you need to improve to go to the next level. So if you get your marks from 25% to 50% in each section, then you are a level 2 firms. 50 to 75, then you are level 3, which means that you have significant adoption of the standards and process, and should focus on optimizing the further. And if you are 75% or above, you are you are level 4 firm. So basically, if you are in level 1, you have to see the roadmap and see that how you can go to the level 2, level 3, and level 4. That's why I mentioned that it's a roadmap. It also gives you a roadmap. So how to improve, right? It's a standard checklist where you know that if this is improved, this marks will be improved, and I will go to the next level. So that's why it's very useful checklist, not only just to get the rankings, but also practically to get the quality assignments done. So we'll start with the practice management operations. I'll walk you through what kind of questions and what kind of percentage or score is being given for each line item. So we talk about the practice area of the firm. So first talks about the revenue from audit and assurance services, right? So it will, why revenue? Because it will give us an indication that whether you have are you a core auditing firm or not? Are you mainly doing, I would say, a value-added services or consulting services, and you have a small part of which is audit, right? Though the revenue percentage will not decide what is the quality of the audit or assignment that you are doing, but still it helps to see that whether you are a serious or a core auditing firm. So again, if you have revenue from assurance and audit services, which is 50 to 75% of your total revenue, then you get 5 marks. If it is above 75%, you get 8 marks. So you get maximum score as 8 basis the revenue of the firm towards auditing and assurance services. So there are some exceptions. I'm not going into very detailed nitty-gritties, and we are expecting the implementation module, implementation guide very soon from the Center of Audit Quality, so that it will have a detailed explanation and a guidance how a firm who wants to implement a AQMM in their firm, can implement. So it will really help the firms to implement step by step. The second is, does the firm have a vision and mission statement? So does this address the forward-looking practice statement plan? So basically why it is important, right? So a firm, when we work with the clients, we see that they have mission, they have vision, they have their parameters, where they want to reach, right? What is the tone at the top? Same way as I mentioned that now time has come where we need to go back and see, are we competent enough? Do we have qualities to deliver these kind of assignments? Do we have internal controls, policies, procedures? Do we have aspirations to grow? Are we moving ahead in the right direction? So definitely we need to have a vision, we need to have a mission to the firm and work towards those directions. So if we have that, we get 4 points. Otherwise it's 0, and maximum score is 4. So then it talks about the practice manuals, right? So do we have right kind of manuals which contains the firm's methodology that ensures the compliance with auditing standards? So we discussed about the auditing standards in last few slides, that these auditing standards are mandatory for the firms. And do we have manuals? Do we have checklists? Do we have methodology where we ensure that we are complying with these kind of auditing standards? If we have we implemented that? Right? What is the status of implementation? Are we using those checklists or standard practices which has been set by the firm? So if yes, we get 8 points. Otherwise, if no, we get 0. So basically it's checklist based. Yes or no, you get 8 points or you get 0. Then available of standard relevant documents for the audit. So this is very important, that do we have letter of engagement? Do we have representation letters? Do we have significant working papers, reports and implementation there? So do we have the basic documents, basic requirements in place? So most of the firms which has been observed in the by quality review board, that they don't have the representation letters, they don't have the letter of engagement, right? So they don't have significant working papers. It's all on verbal basis. So do you have the system in your firm where you have a documentation of all these basic documents? If yes, you get 8 points. Otherwise, you get 0. Now coming back to audit tools. So do you do a client acceptance, engagement acceptance checklist and adequate documentation? Again, it talks about 1.3 talks about the quality review manuals. So do you have, so whether once the audit is done, you have audit quality, right? While doing an audit, you have process and policies. That whether that audit is being reviewed by the next level partner, whether it is done, do you have external audit review committee or audit review people? It can be external people. Do you have those checklists, right? So if you have those kind of standards in place, you get 4 points. So evaluation of independence for all engagements, partners, management. So this all talks about whether the firm has a standard policy where you can review the quality of assignments that has been done. It also talks about whether the firm maintains use the engagement withdrawal rejection policy, right? So there are, whether do you do the KYC of the people before accepting the assignment or engagement, right? Basis whether your firm has capability to do it, whether you have the client has integrity, whether the assignments can be done, you have the expert skill of those kind. So do you have those kind of policies, templates, know your customers, and all those things? So if you have this kind of checklist and process, then you can fetch the marks against each line item which is mentioned. So it talks about the 1.3 continues, and it's talk about use of standard checklist in performance of the audit compliance. So, checklist is very important. And as auditor, I think we must appreciate that, we follow the checklist at each and every stage, so that there are a lot of standards, there are a lot of law which might be applicable to the firm. And it's not possible for someone to, instantly remember the way, is this applicable? So checklist help you in various ways. First is that it helps you to deliver the right quality, to understand the customer, the applicability. And against that, if it is applicable, then what documentation you should check. It also helps you to document at the same time, online documentation of the significant working papers, as we say. So do you have that process? So if you have that process, the score is 4. If no, straightway it's 0. So maximum score can be 4. So again, it talks about the sampling. So this checklist, basically a detailed checklist, which talks about the know your customer, which talks about the standards which is applicable, what if it is applicable, what needs to be checked, how it needs to be checked, what documentation, sampling basis, right? Samples you should collect. What is the frequency of updating those documents, review, upgrading, and if there's a change in the regulation in your checklist, what is the frequency of updating those kind of documents? So if you have all this kind of standard checklist, you get the marks as mentioned against each line. Next talks about the service delivery, efforts monitoring. Does the firm carry out a capacity planning for each assignment? In the process of budgeting and planning of the efforts required, maintain hours, weeks. So this is very important. Like when we take any assignment, are we doing a planning for each and every assignment? Are we monitoring? Have we budgeted the hours, team size, number of people, number of days, number of hours which is required to do that kind of assignment? If it is exceeded, have we discussed with the client that this number of hours is increasing because of so and so reason, and that's how my costing is increasing? I think we do budgeting for clients, but we don't do budgeting for ourselves. So this is important, and I think it's in a favor of the firm to at least budget that this is a man hours, this is a time that is required to do this kind of assignments, and then to see that whether the actual hours which has been consumed in particular assignment, whether it was over budgeted, it was under budgeted, and firm is charging the realization accordingly. So if you have those kind of mechanism, you get 4 marks each in each point. It also talks about the efforts that is spent, costing, pricing. It talks about whether the firm is monitoring the efforts spent. So how you monitor? You can monitor basis. You can monitor basically by way of Excel sheet. It's a simple monitoring. This client, this staff has spent so much time in this particular assignment or particular area of work that has been allotted. So this way we can monitor. There are various tools which is available, and there's also a DCMM, that is like how we have audit quality maturity model. There's a digital maturity model, right? How the firm is mature on the digital competency maturity model, to see that how matured is the firm on the digital side. So this is a separate version 2 of DCMM which is issued by ICI, and I would request members to please go through it to see that how technically mature the firm is, right? So quality control for the engagements. Now it talks about, does the firm have a partner review, quality review of all the audit assignments? Generally, partner review generally is there for all the assignments, but quality review may not be for all the assignments. It's basically for the assignments which is critical in nature, or maybe a listed entity, bank, NBFC, or where you have a difference of opinion in terms of disclosure. So these kind of entities or a critical assignments generally have a audit quality review of the audit engagement. So if you have those mechanisms, you get 8 points, otherwise you get 0 points. So it also talks about that out of the total assignment which has been conducted satisfactory as per the review versus the total number of assignments. So out of 10 assignments, if it has been reviewed by the quality review team or has been done quality review, what percentage has been passed and what is the overall quality percentage? So based on the percentage, let's say more than 90% of your audit assignment which has been reviewed are satisfactory, you get 20 marks. If let's say only up to 10% of your assignments have passed the quality standards satisfactory, then you get 0 points. It also talks about number of engagements without findings by ICI. So let's say there is a finding or a committee has given some improvement points in your assignments that you have done. So if number of assignments without finding, that means if your 90% of the assignments are without finding, then you get 20 marks. If your 10 to 30% of the assignments of the total assignment review are, are without findings, then you get 4 marks. So basically, the maximum you have without findings, you get more marks. Documentation of the forms in accordance with SQC. As we discussed that there are 6 parameters or 6 elements of SQC, which covers right from top, that is ethical requirements, acceptance and continuance of the client relationship, engagement performance. Let's talk about leadership responsibilities, human resource and monitoring. So these are the 6 elements. Are you following as a firm? Are you following these standards or documentation which is required or specified in SQC1? If yes, you get 6 points each in these 2 areas. Does the firm have an account accounting and auditing resource in the form of soft copies, archives, question answer? So does the firm have a system or experts who is centralized, or maybe a documentation where you have FAQs or study material where your team who is doing the audit can use that? Do your firm has a technical team, right? Maybe a specific tax team, FEMA team, or a Companies Act team who guides, or the people who are working on any assignment have any queries can go to them. If not team, do you have any common document or a place where you keep the FAQs or experience of last assignment, so that someone who is doing the similar kind of assignments or doing the audit of the same client next year can go back and review? So if you have those kind of ecosystem or library, I would say, or technical support desk, you get maximum 8 points. This is very important, that is appropriate time spent on undertaking the business risk assessment and planning the engagement. So it's very important with the change of the business today. We need to spend more and more time to understand the criticality of the business, to understand the applicability of regulations, laws, what can go wrong, internal controls, risk in that particular assignments to that organization. So it's very important, once you understand very crystal clear then the organization, nature of the business, kind of the requirement you will have to do the assignment, it will help you to plan the assignment better. And once you have identified the risk, how have risk been mitigated through the performance of audit procedures? So once you identify that this is the risk, what procedures you would follow to ensure that the risk is mitigated? So if you have this ecosystem and you're spending well time to understanding the client and requirement, you get the maximum 12 points. Benchmarking of delivery. Does the firm implement standard delivery methodology? Again, it talks about while delivering, do you have a standard delivery methodology, adoption of audit manuals, practice standards, etc.? Do you have tools to deliver a right kind of results of that assignment? If yes, you get 4 points. So this point is a negative marking. Number of statutory audits engagements reworked. So it's specifically talk about the statutory audit here, and it's talk about that where you have reworked. Let's say you have to revise your balance sheet numbers, you have filed something and there is an error in that. So if negative scoring is based on the percentage. So let's say if less than 5% of your assignments are where you are reworking, right? Out of 100, only 3 are there or 5 are there where you have reworked on the assignments, then there is no negative marking. But let's say more than 50% of your assignments where you have to rework after finalizing, then you get -4 points. So it will be reduced from the total points that you have achieved, and the maximum score will be 0. Number of the clients dispute other than the fees dispute, and how are they addressed? So basically, again, this is a negative scoring. I think total 6 points. There are 6 points where they are negative scoring. 2 are here and rest are in section 3. So it talks about the client dispute. Obviously, it's not a court matter or something. Dispute here means that there is a difference of opinion. It can be in terms of disclosures. It can be in terms of timely completion of the assignments. So if that kind of disputes are there with the client, you have a negative marking. So let's say if a firm has 30 to 50% of the total clients having dispute, you get -3 marks. If more than 50% of the clients you have dispute with, you'll get -4 marks. Only they have excluded other than the fees. So if there's a dispute, or I would say we are not on the common ground basis the fees and all, so that is not excluded in, that is not included in the negative marking. So that is specifically excluded. So are the timing of the interaction. So this is also again important. Talks about whether you interact in a right way with the stakeholders, you timely interaction with the stakeholders, or those charged with the governance, that are we interacting with them on time? Are we measuring that, okay, if there is a delay in the assignment, it is from the client side or it is from our side? So basically it's talk about last minute surprises, right? So tomorrow 31st we have to file something. Today we are talking to the client that, you know, these are the 50 points which is pending. So definitely the management or those charged with governance will have an issue that why not why didn't you come 10 days earlier or 1 month earlier? We could have resolved. Now you are coming on the last day. So is there any situation that of that sort? Maybe if you have and so are you monitoring? So we have to avoid such kind of situation. And if you have a process where the communication is prior, is the right kind of communication to the right people, definitely you get 12 points. Otherwise you get 0 points. It talks about client sanitization. So it talks about mainly, it talks about the updates that you are giving to your clients. So are you updating your clients? What is applicable? Are you formally, there's a process, is there a formal process of communication with the management, those charged with the governance, updating clients on the changes in accounting, auditing aspects, and also follow through on the previous audit observation. Okay, though we had these kind of observation last year, what is the status? Before the end of the year, you check with them what is the status, are they working on it, so that the same observation is not repeated. So this is just kind of, I would say, sensitization of to the client, and working with them to ensure that they are updated and adhering to the changes. So if you have those kind of ecosystem of formal communication, you get 8 points and maximum score can be 8. Now we talk about the technology. 1.9 is the last point in the section 1. When we talk about why I put this picture is because we foresee today that the auditing can be digital. Definitely the auditor cannot be eliminated because the technology again is developed by a person only. And but end of the day, what we see after 5 years, that most of the things can be automated. So only the auditor, everything will come in your dashboard, the exceptional report, non-compliance report, delays and everything. Where the control is not followed, and as a digital auditor, we will be just reviewing the exceptional reports, because today there are a lot of artificial intelligence tools, robotic process automations which is implemented by the clients in their ERP itself, so that the basic checking or vouching, or I would say deviations, are taken care. Today, technology has connected everything, right? Everyone is connected some or the other way. That is because of technology, right? We are talking about blockchain. We are talking about IoT devices, cloud, data analytics. So basically, technology is connecting the world, and so we cannot upgrade ourselves. We cannot move ahead if we don't upgrade ourselves, right? So it's very important when the ecosystem is changing with this technology. We'll have to change and upgrade ourselves to meet those standards. See, what is the base of the auditing? The base is business. The base is the way the business is conducted. If that base is changing, definitely we'll have to change ourselves. I'm just trying to put this in one slide to show you that what we see as a future of audit, right? So we are talking about blockchain technology, where all the authenticated, reconciled transactions will only be posted. So there is no point of reconciliation, bank reconciliation, everything, because everyone who is posting the transaction is already authenticated and reconciled. So there is a client system in the blockchain. So there is authorized, authenticated transaction. There are softwares which are doing the data analytics, artificial intelligence, so give you the complete planning maturity, and it gives you a negative report. The bots can help you to do a control testing, and there's a continuous auditing, right? So we go back to the basics and we talk about now 100% auditing or sample size, increasing the sample size to the maximum possible. That is not possible if we do it on manual basis. So that is all possible because of these bots or artificial intelligence, or I would say data analytics tools that is available. So this is the future of audit, and definitely with this background, we come to the technology. Are we equipped to adopt the change? Do we have an infrastructure where we can work with such kind of businesses or clients and deliver them the right quality audit? So it talks about mainly the infrastructure here, that do we have a video conferencing facilities? Does the firm use only the licensed program? Right from the data privacy point of view also, do we use the licensed operating programs? Do we have own domain, or everyone is using their own personal? Do we have a control check, security check on these emails uses policy? Are there antivirus, malware protection tools, data security, cyber security measures? So each of these point has a marking, and if you have these facilities or policies, you get the points mentioned against each line item. Technology, in technology, it talks about the internal communication, how the internal team chats. Is it basically a standard policy or it's not standard? Whether you have a, like, people use Teams or WhatsApp, or what kind of facilities being used to ensure that you have track of these communications. Does the firm has automated attendance system, leave management, project, digital storage of the record? So does the firm has a proper infrastructure where they can store the working papers, centralized server, or they're using cloud, digital library, access to the people, whether it can be own library, centralized, or whether people are using your the library of ICI. Client interactions, alerts, update, availability of information, etc. website. So this is talking about the complete infrastructure that a firm should have to do business on an online or technology ecosystem. So again, it talks about the audit tools, whether firms are using audit tools, analytical tools, use of data visualization tools, or adoption of the tools. And it's very in detail covered in DCMM version 2.0. So if the firm, so basically, large, as we discussed, a large amount of data, a huge data, which is there in the dump, you say, as you, practically do an audit, you have a dump, but how to analyze the dump, which has so much data, maybe 5-10 files, and having X number of line items and rows and columns, and how to analyze, right? It's very difficult to do it manually and accurately. So, and it's very easy if you're using the analytical tools. You can this club, you can create a template, you can use this, import this all 5-10 files. You can work out a code, what exactly you want, what you want to analyze, and you get the result in one sheet, right? And maybe a fraction of minutes, or or in few minutes. So it's so easy and up to date, or I would say online, when you're using these kind of tools. So do you have these policy, or these kind of tools are used by the firms? If yes, it's 12 points. Otherwise, it's 0. So it talks about revenue, budget, and pricing. So first point talks about the concentration of the client. So basically, it's talk about that if the currently, if whether the client-wise revenue is in compliance with the code of ethics. So as currently, fees from one client should not exceed 40% of the total revenue. Going forward, is expected to be reduced to 15%. So if you're complying with this code of ethics of client concentration, then you get 4 points. Otherwise, if it's not compliant, if your fees from one client is more than 40%, then definitely you are not complying with the code of ethics and you get 0. fee consideration and scope of the service should not infringe upon. Yeah, so basically it's talk about that. Let's say if I'm charging X to one client and maybe for XYZ reason I'm charging Y, which is little lower or much lower than the client A. So client A, I am charging high, so I'll give good services, or I'll follow these standards. Client B, I'm not getting the fees that much which is expected, so I'll not follow the standard. So sorry, you'll have to follow the same standards whether you are getting a premium fees or a normal fees. So you have to implement the same kind of standards to all the assignments that the firm has. So then it talks about adherence to the minimum scale of fee standards recommendation by ICAI. So we all are aware that ICAI has issued a booklet where there's a recommendation by the ICAI to charge minimum scale of fees standards, and if that is being followed, you get the point as it is described here. So this we cover. With this we cover the section 1, which is operations. I would be happy to take in case there are any questions up to here, and then we can move ahead to the section 2 and 3.
So, yes, any member is having any question or any doubt on this first session? The session itself is being very interesting. In chat box, there is no question.
Okay.
Anyone who wants to ask anything can unmute himself and can ask the query. No, sir. I think the session is going very fantastic. No query.
Sir.
We can go to the second part.
Hello. Yes.
Sir,
I would like to ask one question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Very basics part. You said about the various point structure and various the checklist which is being taken care of in audit quality. A general part, whether this and peer review, is there some difference between the two, or they are having some points which they tally with each other, something?
Yeah. So I think very nice question to bring up so that we have clarity with the among the audience also. So it's a collaborative approach between peer review and Center of Audit Quality. Right now, they are running parallel, but they have a collaborative approach. So right now, because peer review does not go into much detail about the ecosystem, it mainly talks about the standard documentation, and it talks about the standards, regulatory, and all those things. It doesn't talk about this. AQM has a broader picture in terms of technology, in terms of HR. So these are two parallel committee, but working very collaboratively to achieve the audit quality. So let's say today it is recommendatory for someone, peer review while doing an audit can check this also. So so going forward, maybe it can be collaborated as one audit, but currently it's two different kind of system which is working.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
So with this, I'll go to the section 2, which is human resource, right? Which is, I would say, a core of any CA firm or a service firm, any company which is into service sector. So here it talks about right from onboarding any person, or prior to that, what should be mechanism to onboard any person, and right till the end, how the journey should be, what kind of upskilling, training should be, how you should select the people, how compensation should be. So end to end is covered here. And I think, as I mentioned, that if this is taken care well, I think we can have a good quality. Just give to set a base. I would like to discuss that what exactly we want. We want output as a high quality audit financial statement. So this is the objective, right? So to get this objective or output, what should be the input? Input should be that we have availability of people. First, that is numbers we are talking about. Right kind of people, that is competency we are talking about. And then they should be focused, right? How they can be focused? If they are well skilled, they know what they want to do, they have an ecosystem, they have a right kind of computers, they have infrastructure, they have internet, they have policies to review, they have right kind of seatings arrangements. So definitely, if all these things is taken care, the number of hours that they have to work is very clear. They are working, there's a balanced approach. The firm is taking care of them from the well-being perspective. So definitely they can focus. So with this input, right, with the right kind of people, input, their competencies, focus, what we want is that we need to process this. How we can process this? The leadership team, the review team, partners, how they take the use of these people that they have, their team they have, how they, I would not say use, I would say that how they utilize to deliver a better result, right? Because tone at the top is very important at the leadership level. What incentives are being provided to them if they are performing well? Is there an independence, infrastructure monitoring? So to get an output of high quality audit, we need to have this input, and a process is basically a leadership team and the infrastructure that we are providing. So with this, I'll come back again to the basics, that what are the challenges of any auditing firm, right? So we find difficulty to recruit and retain talent. I think this is very common in our fraternity, where we feel that, okay, we don't get right kind of people, or if we train, they go away in 6 months, 4 months. So one should analyze that why this is happening. It's not happening only with your firm, but per se, that it will be small size or big size firm, it is common that this is happening. So if we see that if I have listed 3 core reasons which I felt, and that is that we can relate. One is the high history of long working hours. So we have a history of long working hours, irrespective of whether it is audit season, non-audit season. We have some or the other thing where there's a history that CA firms or auditing firms work longer than the industry standards. Maybe your IT friend who will be working from Monday to Friday, but will be working from Monday to Saturday, maybe Sunday and late nights, right? So this is something I think which is a difficulty, and that's why we are not able to recruit a good talent and retain them. Second is high employee turnover rates. So once you train the people, in 6 months again they go and you are finding someone else. So there's a high turnover. So even if your staff who wants to stay with you goes away because you say every time I can't train people, right? And very important, employee well-being, employee satisfaction, and work-life balance. So we have observed in this COVID situation also, where all firms could not have the ecosystem where we can allow people to work from home. Either they stopped working for that particular time, or they were calling the people, or they were just mailing some data, getting tally updated, then keeping in the server. So people had to come to the office to the work. So these kind of things discourages people to be with the firm or get recruited by that particular firm. So this why I'm highlighting is that what is a gap, how we can improve. Definitely there has to be balance between the approach of the employee or your manager, so the employees and the firms, where it's a win-win situation for both of them, and at the same time there is a employee satisfaction as well as the work-life balance. Now when I would talk about the employee satisfaction, what gives the employee satisfaction? Because it is again very subjective. What exactly the employee need, what parameters we should see, and what we should achieve, so that we can measure it and say that, okay, if we have A, B, C, D, E, then employees will be satisfied, right? So we'll discuss further that how it can be measured. Now, very interesting survey I was going through, so I thought to bring to your notice that there are three points which was question, and then subsequently survey was done, and I have presented a relevant extract for you. What do audit employees think of their employers? So as an employee, what I think about my firm, right? Whether I'm happy, I'm not happy, what I want, what is there a work-life balance? Am I satisfied? Is your auditor satisfied in the firm, right? So we already discussed that it's very important that they focus, and if they're not satisfied or taken care well, they will not be able to focus. So what do audit employees think of their employers? what determines employee satisfaction in the audit firm? So exactly, if we talk about employee satisfaction, it can be n number of things which can satisfy or unsatisfy the dissatisfy the auditor or an employee. But what are the standard parameters that we need to see? Is it a career opportunity? If I get a good career opportunity in any firm, I see that, okay, though I'm working hard and working overtime, but I have a good career opportunity. Okay, then I'm satisfied. Up to what extent? Out of 100%, how much percentage on the career opportunity? This is also I would discuss in few slides. Is it about the senior management? Is it about the compensation, the benefit, work-life balance, and cultures and culture and value? So what exactly, what are the components or parameters to measure the employee satisfaction? And third is employee satisfaction and work-life balance linked with the audit quality. Definitely, if someone is satisfied, have work-life balance, focus, they can focus more and bring the audit quality. So this is a small survey out of, which talks about that what audit employees thinks of their employers. So this is a survey for the small firms and small and medium firms and big size firms. If you see overall rating out of 5, the big firms has 3.6 and small and medium is 3.42. So I would say we are all at same level, whether it is big size firms, small firms, or a medium size firm. So overall rating by an employees out of 5 is 3.42 to 3.6. Compensation, definitely big firms has little have a little premium payout than the small and medium size, but there is not much of difference, 3.48 and 3.32. We talk about the career opportunities. Big firms has a higher career opportunities than a small and mid-sized firm, same as the senior management satisfaction. But if you see this work-life balance, it states that big firms, the rating is much lower than the small and medium. This is not my personal opinion. I have extracted from the surveys that was being done, and and I found it interesting, so I thought of sharing with you. And if you talk about the culture and values, it's 3.71 in the big firms and 3.48 in the small and medium firms. Now, if one has to measure, okay, that, as I mentioned, it overall satisfaction of the employee, how they think, what they want, what mix of the components they want. So this is, again, you see that audit employees think first, these 3 parameters are very important for someone who is joining the firm. First is the culture and value. What is the culture of the firm and what are the values they carry? Career opportunities, as I mentioned, do they have? So basically the surveys, if we analyze this survey, it tells that people are ready to get little less compensation, less work-life balance, but if they have career opportunities, right kind of culture and senior management to support, they are willing to continue. So these are the percentage, what each parameters contribute to the satisfaction of the employee. And third, as we mentioned, the definitely work-life balance of the auditor will give us the high quality audit. Now, before going to the actual AQMM, I would also like to focus here that what kind of trainings we should have today so that we are updated and we are aligned with the industry and the required audit standards. So definitely we need technical and soft skills. Why soft skills? That today, the interaction has increased with the client. It's more about agile approach where you do some small tranches of the work, go back to them, understand, discuss, communicate, come back and redo the audit. More and more communication is being done with the clients. So it should be very crystal clear what we are trying to say. So soft skills plays a very important role today because technical side is being taken care by the tools. Definitely knowledge matters, but when we have to communicate in the right perspective, soft skills do matter. Then continuous training, up skills, maybe technical, non-technical. So it has to be continuous training. Now, when we talk about the new skill, what someone needs to upgrade themselves, now 2022 is coming and everyone will have their new year resolution. I would request to adopt some of these new skills from here and see that definitely it will help you to upgrade yourself professionally. So basically, new skill. What are the new skills we should learn about? Is agile approach. Agile approach comes from IT software industry where the big project is broken into small part and each part is completed and then further go to the next stage, depending on the result of stage 1. So that's how the audit has become now, where you don't plan you don't do a complete audit and then go to the client. You basically break your audit into small tranches, discuss with the clients, get the output, and then go further basis the that result, how deep you want to go at the next level. Data scientists, cyber security, data analytics, design thinking, cloud. So basically, if you see this, these are all the new skills. Earlier we used to say that if you want to do a listed entity, if you want to do a big entity, then only you need this. If you are doing towards IT companies or the MNCs, then only you need skills. But today you will realize that these are the skills which is required to do even for the small entities, audit for the small entities, because everyone is using the technology, everyone is using the ERP system. So you need to understand the volume has increased, the complexity of business has increased. So even for your mid-sized clients, you need to learn, and definitely it helps you to reduce the time of the assignment, deliver on time, and with the increased quality. Rotation, I say that the audit team is rotating towards the business. Why I say so is because now we invest more and more time to understand the business. We invest more and more time to understand what is the risk in the business, and the business is rotating towards the audit. Why? Because they are putting the board system, RPAs, data analytics is inbuilt in the system, where the system is also auditing at the real-time basis, right? Policies, procedures, level, defense 1, level 1 and level 2 of the defense, right? To check whether the test of controls and all is done by the system itself on the real-time basis. With this background, I'll discuss the HR part, which carries almost 240 marks. So resource planning talks about the first point, resource planning and monitoring. Again, very important. It's well said that half well planned is half done. Same is that what is the procedure with the firm, where how you are planning I would say allocation of your resources or team. Whether it is being monitored. Do you have a skill matrix where you monitor? You know that okay, A is good at IT audit, B is good at GST, C is good at internal audit, D is good at so and so. So do you have a skill matrix where it's very clear that what are the capabilities of the team member? And when such kind of assignment come, which resource to be allocated for that particular assignment? Do you have tool? It can be an Excel sheet where you are maintaining and you can allocate those kind of assignments or people to those particular assignment. And are you monitoring or tracking the employee activity? If yes, you get 4 points. And it's very interesting, again, that staff to partner ratio. Are we monitoring these ratios? Staff to partner ratio, partner to manager ratio, manager to article ratio. We do for clients, liquid ratio, quick ratio, current asset ratio, what is EBITDA, what is PAT, what is PE. We do it for client, but do we have time or an ecosystem or a standardization policies to see what is the ratio that we have? Minimum staff to partner ratio and all those things. So that is important and interesting to see. I'll just give a couple of examples in the next slide, where again, I have taken from the survey, which talks about what is the staff to partner ratio for few firms. Then do you have a mechanism where utilization and realization rate per employee? Utilization is basically the total number of hours which is available of the resources in that particular assignment. Realization is how much you have billed, right, or realized out of those hours that is available. So if you have that process to monitor, you get 4, otherwise you get 0. Does the firm document the resource plan for each engagement, right? So is there any plan? First of all, do you have a mechanism to make the plan? You do plan the engagements and then you document it for the further reference. If that is there, you get 4 points, otherwise you get 0 points. Now this is what I was talking about, that ratio of partners to staff. So of these 6 UK's big 6 firms, talks about that one partner has how many staff, right? So the ratio of partner to staff is calculated by dividing number of firms employees by number of its members, or I would say partners, right? So PwC has 24.6, Grant Thornton has 23.8, and likewise this. So if you see this range, that each partner has 18 to 25 staff, right? So this is it will be very interesting if you do it for your firm and see that as per the industry standard where we stand, right? Are we the partner overutilized, underutilized, where there's a headroom to give more assignments, or if it is overutilized, definitely the quality will be compromised. You take the work from there and give to some other partner, or you increase the partner, or you increase the staff. So there will be a lot of analysis that can be done. So this is a survey which is done by the BDO in UK. Then it talks about the employee training. Do you have a policy of employee training? What kind of training is being given to the juniors, seniors, number of hours that is being spent? If it is junior, 60 hours. If you give 60 hours, then you get 2 points. If for the mid-level, 30 to 60 hours. For a partner level, at least 30 hours of the training. So if that the training policy is there, you are maintaining those standard hours of training, you get the requisite points that is given against the each point. So basically, if you have these policies in this, you can get 4 points. Otherwise, it's 0. Same way, it talks about the technology skill set that we already discussed, whether upgrading yourself toward data analytics, RPAs, blockchain, the new technology. What is the adoption? Is there a training for the employees? So you might have tool, but have you given requisite training to the employees so that they can use? If yes, then you can get up to 8 months. Now it talks about the performance management culture, whether you reward the employees if they have a high standard, high performance, and so there can be incentive policy, there can be bonus policy, they can per assignments. So what is the reward culture? Whether the people who are performing well are appreciated in terms of money also. So if you have those kind of policies, you get 8 points. Then it talks about the turnover compensation. What is the composition of the overall team strength? How many numbers of the partners, assistant, paid articles, paid assistants? What is the constitution of the team? What is the turnover ratio? What is how many people are qualified CA? So against each point, so let's say if you have up to 10 and above members who are chartered accountants, qualified people, you get 20. If you have 4 to 5, you get 8 points. So similarly, if you have a right kind of composition of the team, you get 8 marks. Then basically it talks about the retention of the employee. So how many years the person is, do you have a mechanism where you monitor the attrition rate, you monitor what kind of, since how many years there are people who have been retained in the firm, and are they taking care of the basic things like social, statutory contribution like PF, if applicable, health insurance, other benefits, whatever is required, whatever is mandatory, and also the other benefits like health insurance and all. Does the firms evaluate the kind of audit? So basically, this talks about the firm evaluate for kind of audits. Does it have a revolving door? Revolving door in context of audit means where people in any kind of assignment, where any audit where people are coming and going, let's say in 3 months or 6 months. So is there any mechanism where you ensure that where people are regularly changing, but the audit quality is not compromised, proper handover is done, and also analyze whether why, if it is happening in any particular department, assignment, or with partners, then you need to analyze why it's happening so. So if you have this review mechanism, then you get the points that mentioned against each line item. Then again, it talks about the framework where you evaluate the commitment of the managers, employee, and reward them, whether the assignment is completed on time with quality, what is the technical standards, what is the technical upgradation that your employees are doing. Then it talks about the access and use of the technology, right? So whether your firm has enabled a good ecosystem or a better technology for day-to-day work of the employees, which is including the favorable remote policies, work from home policies. Is it favorable to the employees, and they have a right kind of ecosystem? Whether there is coaching and mentoring program, especially for women and colleagues. So if you have all kind of infrastructures, then you get 8 points. Then it talks about the policy where after the busy period or audit season, is there a policy where you give the leaves or holidays to your people to rejuvenate and come back fresh again? So if you have those kind of policy, you get 4 points. So is there policies who is helping staff support for their well-being? They can communicate at any point in time. They can come up and give their feedbacks, right? So is there any mechanism where the feedback is taken? So it's all talking about the well-being of the employee. It's talking about whether there is a clear channel of the communication well established, where there is a feedback. It's not the one-way ordering system, but it's a complete ecosystem which is working mutually, right? So is there any feedback mechanism or survey mechanism that is being adopted? It's talked about, and this is very important, it's talked about even in our practice day to day, it's talked about the standards of recruiting people, assessment methodologies. We, our team or our partners or even we sometimes say that, okay, this person is not performing. After 6 months of joining, we come to know that this person is not performing. So where we are lacking? Are we lacking at the time of recruitment? Do we have right kind of policy to recruit people? Or we are lacking at the training or setting up the expectations? So this is also a right kind of, assessment. We need to have a right kind of assessment methodology so that the person who is coming in is meeting our requirement, right? From the skill set point of view, from the understanding knowledge point of view, from the experience point of view. Are the employees of the firm compensated well as per the defined salary map? So is there a salary bar which is set that X level of person with so much experience in this department will have salary from this to this? Definitely, there can be exceptional cases who are high performers and that can be compensated. Otherwise, generally the companies or corporates have a salary bar for the designated designations. So do we follow that? Because if there is a major fluctuation between two employees working in same department, having same experience, working on same client, but the salaries are majorly different, so then again there will be a dissatisfaction and negativity will come. So that's why it's important that we have a salary bar. Then it talks about the number of people, ACA, FCA in the team, and then it talks about whether the post-qualification courses are being done, which has been issued by ICI like DISA and all is done by the partners or the members, or the international certifications are being done by the qualified people. So again, first it talks about the points. If you have, let's say, out of 10, you have 5 people who are qualified ACA and FCA, that is more than 50%, you get 12 marks. If only 30% of your team is qualified, you get 4 points. Then it talks about post-qualification certification by the ICI. Again, maximum 8 points you can fetch from this point. And if there's an international standards and the international certification is being done, then again, depending on the percentage of the people who have done these certifications, the marks will be allocated. Then very interesting, where it talks about the KPIs, key performance indicators. What are the KRAs, KPIs of the partners evaluation? Is there a process of setting up a KPIs of the partners? What is expected from him? Whether in terms of the business quality, number of assignments, reduction in the number of errors in the filing quality. There can be so many parameters. So do you have those kind of written KPIs? Then is there a way where you can assess it, and whether the partner is reviewed basis on the KPIs which is being decided by the firm? So if that is the case, then you get maximum 8 points. So with this 2.5, sorry, this is repeated. So with this 2.5, we cover Yeah, with this 2.5, we cover basically the second part of our session, which was on human resource. So in case any questions in this part, please feel free to write it on the chat or unmute yourself and talk. You can feel free to ask. So, okay, I don't see.
Yes, anybody is having any query or? No, sir. Apparently, there is no query.
Okay, perfect. So we'll move ahead to the last section of this session, which talks about practice management, strategic and functional. So basically, this talks about the mix of partners. Does the firm manage the following attributes relating to the assurance partners to maintain same at optimum level? So it's talking about the mixed kind of the firm should have black hair, gray hair, and white hair. So it should be a right balanced mix of experience, right? And the new assurance partner should also be a part of the team. So accordingly, there is a ranking or marking system depending on the composition of the partners. Then it talks about whether does the firm comply with the ICI Code of Ethics, Companies Act, so whatever regulatory ethical standard is applicable to us, whether the firm is complying with it. And so if yes, then the firm gets 8 marks, otherwise firm gets 0. This is very valid point which any firm should have, a whistleblower policy. So whistleblower policy refers to a policy where person would raise an alarm for fraud, scam, illegal activities, or any unethical practices within the firm, right? So a policy may provide a right to the employee to report any inappropriate activity within the firm. So in case there is any inappropriate activity, someone at any level wants to write to the appropriate team member about it. So there should be a process, there should be a contact number, email ID, and process how someone can make use of whistleblower policy and inform the requisite team members. So along with the quality, the firm, the AQM also talks about the volume, right? So what are the number of branches, affiliations, or the network firms which are affiliated with the firms? So if you have up to two branches, up to 3 branches, you get 2 points, 4 to 7, you get 4 points, and maximum you can fetch is 8 points out of this. It's also talk about the infrastructure. So it talks about the centralized and decentralized accounting, invoicing, and payroll processing. So it's not talking about the operation level, but overall administrative part of the firm, whether it is centralized, decentralized, because definitely will have that standard. It should not happen that one firm is paying salary on 10th, other is one branch is paying on 10th, other is paying on 7th. So at least there should be a standardization at the administrative level. So that's why if you see that if it is centralized, you get 8 points. If it is decentralized, you get 4 points. It also talks about physical and logical security of the information. So what is a physical security? Physical security, basically it talks about the CCTV camera, security guards, lock, access control, etc. And if we talk about the logical security, it talks about token authentication, biometric measures, passwords, passcodes, and all those things. So does the firm have right kind of physical and logical security of the information? Now with the Data Privacy Act coming in, we have to be more well prepared to ensure that the data is used in a right way, or at least the consent has been taken to use the data. So I think this is going to be very important going forward to ensure that data is well secured, both in terms of physical and logical. Then it talks about, are there adequate DA tool and IT infrastructure available, and are they being used for the relevant assignment? So one thing is that, do you have a tool, data analytics tools and IT infrastructure? And again, whether the staff is well skilled or the infrastructure is up and running where you can use it for the relevant assignment. If that is the case, you get 12 points. Let's talk about the in terms of internet, intranet, bandwidth, VPN, Wi-Fi for the remote working. So is there a proper LAN, WAN, VPN there, right kind of speed to download and upload the documents, browse. So that kind of basic setup is there in the firm. If it is there, you get 12 points. Otherwise you get 0 points. Now, 3.3 is basically the practice credentials. So what is the credential of your firm? Is the firm qualified? They have achieved a certain level of quality, right? So any practice which seek a suo motu peer review. So there can be a suo motu peer review from the ICI. And after considering the report of the peer reviewer, peer review board issues a peer review certificate in the practice. So does the firm has a peer review practice certified certification? If yes, then you get 4 points. Otherwise, you get 0. Then are you empaneled with RBI and CNAG, right? So RBI and CAG are the two most important regulatory bodies as they specify the norms and the eligibility of CA firms to get selected as a statutory auditor of banks or public sector undertaking. So this is basically, one badge that you have. Okay, yes, you are empaneled with RBI or you are empaneled with CNAG, and this scoring will help you to also decide whether the firm is matured enough to do a quality audit. So if you are registered with RBI and CAQ, you get 8 points. Otherwise, you get 0 points. Now again, this is a negative marking which talks about, is there any advisory as well as a decision to not allot work to unsatisfactory performance? So basically, due to the unsatisfactory performance, is there any advisory by CNAG which says that, okay, there was a delay in the completion or the quality was not up to mark? So there's an advisory. They have not blacklisted, but there's an advisory which says that the work should not be allotted to that firm. If that is the case, you get -5 points. So again, it's a negative marking. If there's no advisory released against you, then you get 0 points. If there is a negative advisory which is there, you get -5 points. What are the credentials of the firm that distinguish the firms or stands a testimony to the quality of the firm? So basically, this talks about the blacklisting and debarment. So is there any government bodies, authorities, due to the performance, quality, timeline, blacklisted the firm? If the firm has been blacklisted, it's a -10 points, and the 10 points will be removed from the total amount, total points that you have fetched so far. And again, negative point is on the negative assessment in report of audit quality review board. So if QRB has reviewed your report and there is a negative assessment where they ask for the improvement, or they give you a clear negative assessment point, then there's a -5 marks for this particular negative assessment from the QRB. So again, your 5 marks will be reduced from the total marking. Now the last one is whether the any professional misconduct case, any member or firm is there proved guilty of any professional misconduct. So if that is the case, then again there's a negative marking, -5. If there's no misconduct, no one has been proved guilty of any misconduct, then you get 0 points. So there is no negative marking in that case. So with this, I cover all the 3 parts, or I would say 3 sections, with the basic introduction of AQMM. So happy to take any questions.
Yes, dear member, do you have any question, any query? In fact, Mohit sir, you explain all the points in such a nice manner. The very nice PPT presentation, very first I can say that everything was very self-explanatory, that if you're doing this, you will get this mark. If you're not doing, it will be 0. And I really surprised that what a terrible situation is coming in audit field. Though at present for the city like Ahmednagar, Akola, Aurangabad, we do not have that big firms, but sooner or later it is bound to be happen for every small firm. As Keyur rightly said, it is similar to your peer review. Yes. I think this is something more than peer review.
Right.
And you should be ready for this. And by following all these quality assurance, these aspects, I think definitely the quality of audit will improve. The three aspects which you covered in this, that is there is 600 marks paper. In fact, now in every group now we in a CA inter or CA final in foundation, we have a paper for 400 marks group. Here now the burden of 600 marks, which is get divided to the practice management operation, human resource management, practice management, strategical and functional. बहुत तैयारी करनी पड़ेगी सर आगे चल के, इतना तो हम लोग श्योरली कहते हैं. We explain all the points very lucid manner on behalf of all the three branches. I am very thankful to you. Keyur भाई आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
मैं एक ही चीज कहना चाहूंगा, ऑडिट हम लोग जो सर ने एक मुद्दा उठाया ना कि हम बहुत बारीक बारीक चीजें देखते हैं, पर कई बार ये मुद्दों पे ध्यान नहीं देते हैं कि हमारा स्टाफ का टाइम कितना इन्वेस्ट हो रहा है. That is the man hours, how much is invested, and we keep on doing an audit as per the normal and the traditional practice we have. So we need to now get changed according to the changes into the requirement of the law and the system, whatever is changing. Right. और उस हिसाब से रिकॉर्ड भी बनाने पड़ेंगे, उस हिसाब से स्टाफ को ट्रेन करना पड़ेगा, एंड ये भी देखना है कि आगे जाके हम सबको जब ये अप्लाई होता है AQMM, so how we can comply with these questionnaires and have a good audit with a very better quality. इसके ऊपर ध्यान देना पड़ेगा जरूर.
Agree, sir. Agree. And I think this is a roadmap. So that's why it's a capability building, you know, and it has a roadmap where you can see that, okay, you can improve gradually, right? You can adopt some things today, then you can improve at a next level, you can adopt. And I will just share a small example as you, where you mentioned about the working hours. And then I'll just talk about the today's experience. Today morning, before this session, there was a discussion, not dispute, but discussion going on with the client that, you know, this piece is high and all. And, you know, I just asked my team to bring in, we monitor in Excel, a very simple day sheet where how much time spent in which client, and everyone does that. And he just got a print and also this many hours has been spent. I put it in front of the client and he was convinced. So I'm just telling you that these are small points, you know, maybe we have covered so many things in 2 hours. So it looks like a very big, this thing, but more or less, we are all doing this. Without this, we can't do audit, you know. But maybe we are not documenting it. We are doing not up to that level. We are covering 20-30%. So it's just, if, you know, and I talk about that, you know, in my PS session also, it's all about mindset. If today you think that it is mandatory, recommendatory, whatever, I want to follow these standards and I'll start working on this checklist. Then you see that, you know, the level of quality, the level of confidence that your firm will have, definitely it will make a difference.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Surely, sir.
Yes, members. Any other query?
Definitely, sir. आगे आने वाले समय में, हाँ. Yes, Keyur भाई, please.
बाकी तो कुछ भी नहीं है, sir.
Done. Yes, sir.
Yes, संदीप भाई, continue करते हैं फिर. I'll now it's time whereby we have. Yes, संदीप भाई, आप कुछ बोल रहे हैं?
Just I was just inviting Pankaj bhai. Pankaj bhai, are you there?
Yes, Pankaj bhai is here.
Yes, Pankaj bhai is there.
Unmute, Pankaj bhai, unmute कीजिएगा. Yes,
Pankaj bhai. Mute करके रखा था मेरे को, तब तक मैं कहाँ से unmute?
अरे बाप रे बाप.
बोलती बंद कर रहे हैं आप सबकी.
Yes. So let's move ahead. पंकज भाई, वैसे तो अब काफी अच्छे से सर ने एक्सप्लेन कर दिया, मोहित भाई ने भी, and he had shared about the AQM and everything. So moving further, I would request now Pankaj bhai to give a formal vote of thanks for the today's session. Yes, Pankaj bhai. Pankaj bhai. Okay. Sandeep bhai, please, I request you to please give a formal vote of thanks.
कोई बात नहीं.
Hello.
Okay,
Hello. आवाज आ रही है?
Yes.
Sorry. On behalf of Aurangabad branch, Ahmednagar branch, and Akola branch, I, CA Pankaj Soni, I am thankful to our today's speaker, CA Mohit sir, for explaining this important topic about audit and its quality, which is an important factor which will be required to be implemented day in, day out, considering all the professional responsibilities that we need to dispose of while doing audit. I am also grateful to and thankful to CA Durgesh Kabra sir on behalf of all the three branches for addressing us. Keyur bhai, I was not there. I mean, Durgesh sir had joined at the starting. Since I was traveling,
No,
I was not.
Durgesh sir was unable to join.
Durgesh bhai joined in match.
Yes, sir.
क्या बोले?
Durgesh sir नहीं join हो पाए थे.
Okay. But still, as always, Durgesh Kabra sir has been supporting all the branches and us in all our endeavors. So I'm thankful to him for his continuous support and guidance. And special thanks to Keyur bhai, इतने tight schedule से भी आपने इस VCM को organize करने के लिए efforts दिए. तो संदीप भाई और मेरे तरफ से मैं आपको special thanks for, since I was traveling, I was not able to do anything in this except for giving this vote of thanks. And of course, I'm thankful to all the audience for their patient listening. And I wish everybody a happy and a prosperous new year. Over to you all.
Yes. Thank you all. It was a great session. And yes.